Welcome to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are off and running on a glorious Saturday morning. What a weekend we are going to have. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Tim Murray, live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. Ooh, buddy. With Greg Popovich's announcement yesterday that he will be stepping back as the head coach of the Spurs, it got me to think about what we have in store today and tomorrow. We've got 4 Game 7s this week, 2 on the ice and 2 on the hardwood. And the clip that was making its rounds yesterday was after the Spurs won their 5th title under Greg Popovich, where he was jokingly going, 1, oh no, wait, 2, oh wait, no, 3, and went all the way to 5. That's what we have. We've got this many. We've got 4. Do the Tom Brady gifts. We've got 4 Game 7s as last night the Golden State Warriors unable to finish off the Houston Rockets. The zigzag did not come home last night as the Golden State Warriors, as around 6.5-point favorites, lose to the Houston Rockets. We'll dive into that game in more depth later on in the first hour as we take a look back at last night. But a busy, busy show ahead for you. And Game 7s abound. Today, we get the Clippers and Nuggets. We also get the Avalanche on the ice as well to try, easy for me to say, finish off the Dallas Stars. For all of our friends up there in the Mile High City, got to have that double screen ready. Go to a sports bar, whatever you want to do. A multi-screen evening is in the works for anyone there in Denver. Not 1, but 2 Game 7s involving Denver teams. Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche, both trying to finish off their respective series. It's funny, when I think back at series bets that I made 2 prior to the start of the first round in the NBA and the NHL. We talked about one here on the program, the Colorado Avalanche against the Stars. I bet them pre-series at -110. We went back in a couple Saturdays ago, heading into a game, I believe it was a Game 3, and now here we are, a Game 7 ahead of us with the Avalanche and the Stars. The Avs able to force that Game 7, and the Clippers able to do the same as well. The Clippers with that other pre-series bet. All right, busy, busy show. We will head down to the Derby in less than 30 minutes as, oh yeah, by the way, in addition to the fact that we have 2 Game 7s, later on tonight, we also have the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, and we here at VSiN, I'm not going to take credit for it. We've had some good guests on VSiN Primetime, but we've had incredible coverage all week long getting you ready for the Kentucky Derby. That won't stop today as we continue to get you ready for the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby. So we will head down to Kentucky at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk to Drew Dinsick, but let's start the show like we always do. Let's get you ready for a busy Saturday in sports. Let's set the scene.
Let's dive into the biggest games of the day.
Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Game period 7, period. And that would be, let's start with the hoops. Denver hosting the Los Angeles Clippers. We'll dive into the differences in the totals because it's Game 7. There's going to be love there for the under, no doubt about it. Right now, the Denver Nuggets find themselves as a 1.5-point favorite. The total is at 207. And Kawhi Leonard and company are ready to get it rolling in Kawhi fashion, let's be honest. He's not the most excitable fella, but here's what Kawhi Leonard has to say about Game 7 for the Clippers and the Nuggets.
You know, that we've been there before. We played there. This will be our 4th time. So just play like any other game. Just go out there and have fun. Let's stay locked in with each other and got to talk. And, you know, like I said before, they're a good team at home. So we got to be able to come out in that first quarter.
Man, I tell you what, if that doesn't get your juices flowing here on a Saturday, I don't know what will get your juices flowing, Kawhi Leonard. But the dude has been balling out throughout this series. And we'll talk to Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm a bit worried about our guy, JVT. I'll be honest. You know, he is a Clipper fan at heart. He is the only Clipper fan I have in my life. And he's been through it. He's been through it as a Clipper fan. He deserves better. And the Clippers, let's be honest, here we are in Game 7. And if you're the Denver Nuggets, I want to say you're thrilled that you have a Game 7 because you could have finished them off in Game 6 at the Intuit Dome. But you've got to be thinking to yourself, probably should have been eliminated by now. Yes, they should have. But here we are, Game 7, Nuggets and Clippers. The Nuggets, a 1.5-point favorite. Mentioned the zigzag, and speaking of JVT, he did this earlier this week on Money Moves. Let's update you on where we are on the old zigzag in the NBA postseason. It is hitting after last night, which did not come home with the Houston Rockets beating the Golden State Warriors. It is still hitting at a 65.6% clip on the year, 21, 11, and 1 ATS, the old zigzag throughout this postseason. So that would mean the Nuggets would be the right side. Let's take a look real quickly at where we've moved here throughout this series. This series opened up Game 1 on April 19th. The total, 224.5. Game went to overtime. Still went under the total, 112-110. It was that Nuggets victory, the Russell Westbrook 3. Game 2, big adjustment, movement of 7 points to the total, went under. Game 3, adjustment again to 213.5, went under. Game 4, 211.5, you guessed it, under. 4 straight unders to start this series. Then in Game 5, 210 was the total, and that was the Denver Jamal Murray no relation game where he went off. 131-115 Denver win. Hey, we've got an over. So readjustment to Game 6, 213. We had another over, but it's Game 7. Back down to 206.5, 207. So the movement here from a total standpoint. The Clippers, by the way, for Game 5, that game in which they lost to the Denver Nuggets, were a road favorite, -2. Here they are tonight. They are a 1.5-point dog. Game 7 tonight, Denver and Los Angeles. Lots of coverage for you throughout the show. JVT will join us in hour number 2. We will also head to Denver later on in this hour as well. But it's not just game period, 7 period in the NBA. We got one on the ice as well, as the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars will go head-to-head, and we will see the Colorado Avalanche and if they can close off these Dallas Stars. The head coach of the Avs is Jared Bednar.
But you're playing a team for the 7th time in less than 2 weeks. Like, you're a lot of the time you're just reiterating things that you've already talked about, things that you have to be better at, like in every aspect of the game, and it still comes down to that compete level, the passion you play with, the speed you're playing with, like winning races, battles, and then executing under all circumstances.
Late night tonight, this one will be in Dallas. The Colorado Avalanche against the Dallas Stars. The Avs will be a favorite on the road against the Stars, a series that I think most people anticipated the Avalanche to take care of business. They jumped out to that 5-1 win on the road in Game 1. All right, here we go. Dallas responds with the overtime victory in Game 2. Game 3 was that Dallas overtime win in Denver. So last Saturday, talking to you folks here on this program, I took an adjusted series price on the Colorado Avalanche at plus money. They win Game 4. All right, kumbaya, we're good to go. And now here we go. We have to get to a game number 7. Game 5 goes to Dallas. Game 6 back to Colorado at home. And tonight we get Dallas and Colorado. And we'll see if this is the old Game 7 situation where you get a tight first period, maybe a tight game. Looking at where we sit from a first period under standpoint, the juice has moved. It was -110 at a couple of shops yesterday. Now looking around the market, -20, -25. That is personally a way that I've looked to attack this game, going that first period under between the Avs and Stars. So there we go from that standpoint. Oh, yeah, by the way, later today, the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby. We've already had a couple of horses scratched. Rodriguez scratched the 4-post. Bob Baffert's horse Grande also scratched as well. So the field is down to 19 headed into today's Kentucky Derby down there at Churchill Downs. The morning line favorite continues to be, as we head into this one, Journalism. This is a horse that a lot of people anticipate you got to throw in all your boxes. So we will dive into this one with Drew Dinsick a little bit later on as the Run for the Roses gets going later on this afternoon. And then lastly, I'll wrap up here as we set the scene for today. Scotty Scheffler. My man is on fire. Scotty's on fire, to quote Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, because not only did he go out and shoot a 61 on Thursday, Scotty Scheffler, the best golfer in the world, responded by shooting a 63 yesterday. So the second round is wrapping up because of some rain at the CJ Cup. But here you go, a tweet from the PGA Tour. Leader by 6, solo leader Scotty Scheffler. He broke the course record broke the course 36-hole record. He missed out on the PGA Tour 36-hole record by just one stroke. Hell of a start to the tournament down there for Scotty Scheffler. A 61 on Thursday, 63 yesterday. He sits as a minus 1,400 favorite to win the CJ Cup, the Byron Nelson down there in Texas. All right, we are up and running. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. We've set the scene for you to get you ready for the day. But before we go all the way forward, we always must take a slight step back. About last night, did Connor Hellerbuck really get pulled again on the road? Yeah, it did happen. Also, what happened out in the Bay Area as the Warriors unable to finish off the Houston Rockets. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. We head to Churchill Downs in less than 20 minutes as well. Drew Dinsick will help us preview the Kentucky Derby.
VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
We keep it rolling here on a Saturday morning. Tim Murray live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. Happy Derby Day to all. What are your trifecta, your exacta? What are your boxes going to look like today? You could always tweet me at @1TimMurray. Drew Dinsick going to help us break down the Run for the Roses coming up in 15 minutes. He's down there in Kentucky at Churchill Downs, so we'll get his thoughts on it. We'll go to Denver later on in this hour, get the perspective from the Denver side of things, how the Denver locals are going to take in not one, but 2 Game 7s tonight. The Colorado Avalanche on the road at the Dallas Stars, and the Denver Nuggets at home against the Los Angeles Clippers. Speaking of those Clippers, JVT, Jonathan Von Tobel, in hour number 2. How is our resident Clipper fan dealing with the nerves? That is another Game 7 for his beloved Los Angeles Clippers. We'll talk more Game 7 hockey as well in hour number 2. Todd Furman and Steve Levy. So a busy show for you today and fired up to bring it all to you. But let's take a step back. What we like to do here on this show, if you're new to the program, we did this all throughout the football season when we had some Friday night college football games. We set the scene for you to start the show, but then we take a step back. Maybe you are waking up a little groggy-eyed, went to the bar a little too late, get those questions, hey man, about last night, ... About last night, did the Houston Rockets really take care of business? Man, it was funny because you look at the Game 5 on Wednesday night, and it felt like, all right, Golden State throws in the towel a little bit, right? They throw in the backups early on in the third quarter. Shouts to our guy Will Hill, who had a tremendous angle on Wednesday night on VSiN Primetime, looking at some player prop unders on Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry with the anticipation and expectation as we watch that game for them to pack it in a little bit. Get ready for Game 6. Well, they were out there for Game 6, and I don't know how ready they were because this was a 2-point game going into the fourth quarter, and then the Rockets were able to pull away. Some window dressing late, but that fourth quarter dominated by the Houston Rockets. As a 5.5-point dog, they take care of business. As mentioned in the open, the zigzag did not come home last night, even though it has been so fruitful throughout this postseason. And a big reason why, How about Fred VanVleet? He was phenomenal. 29 points last night for Fred VanVleet. Also, Alfred Şengün was tremendous with 21. Off the bench, you got Steven Adams. Hello, mate. Had 17 points. So a great effort for the Houston Rockets last night to force a Game 7 back at home on Sunday evening. Ime Udoka is the head coach of the Houston Rockets.
We knew they were going to come out aggressive, and for us it was do more of the same, more of what we've done. Defense travels, our physicality and our awareness has improved throughout the series, and in general, I think our young guys aren't really fazed by things. They just continue to play through it, and like you guys mentioned, they have really good veterans that steady them at times, and so for us, it was just continue to do what we did to get here. Even in the games that we lost, we didn't play our best. We played the average game at best, and there were some one-possession games. And when we've played good basketball, we've had some blowouts. And so that bodes well, knowing that we can kind of ramp it up there. And if you just have an average or above-average game, you'll be in good shape.
I really thought the Warriors were going to take care of business last night. I got suckered into it. I didn't lay the number, but I took them on the money line, threw it into a little a concocted money line parlay, and that was, as we all know now, a big old loser. So about last night, you gave out. Well, I didn't give it out, thankfully. It was just in my bank account or in my betting account. So didn't give it out to you, but I had a loser. Just so you know, I thought the Warriors would take care of business, but they got VanVleeted last night as Fred VanVleet was spectacular. Once again, 29 points, 6 of 9 from 3. Draymond Green, remember, Fred VanVleet was on those Raptors back in 2019 when they knocked off the banged-up Golden State Warriors. So, Draymond, not all that surprised to see what Fred VanVleet is doing.
Draymond, as you guys were getting ready for this series, Fred hadn't shot the three ball, well, mostly all season he hasn't. Are you surprised at all by how well he shot these last few games? Because at first he wasn't shooting at all. I mean, he couldn't get balls to drop.
No, I'm not surprised one bit. Fred VanVleet is the reason we lost to Toronto in the finals. So we know what he's capable of. Not surprised at all.
6 threes last night for Fred VanVleet. I'm going to say that. I'm going to get it right. I'm going to get it right by the end of the show. Fred VanVleet, FVV. I don't know. We got to figure out. Just call him Van Vliet. Maybe that's the easiest way. 6 threes last night, 29 points. 4 threes in Game 5 for Fred VanVleet, 26 points. And in Game 4, 8 threes for the Houston Rocket veteran guard. Quite the performance last night by the Rockets. We get a Game 7 tomorrow night. Houston, right now, as we look at the betting market for game number 7, finds themselves as a slight favorite heading into this one. So a bit of an adjustment as we head into game number 7. The total, by the way, if you're wondering, has been moved quite considerably as this sits at 201. We'll talk more about this with JVT, but 208 yesterday in the 115-107 game. It went over, but because it's a Game 7, whoop, down to 201. This series, by the way, Game 1, 213, under. Game 2, massive adjustment, 205, under. Game 3, 205, under. Game 4, 204, hey, over. Game 5, 203, over. Way over. What was that? That was the beatdown by the Houston Rockets. And then last night we saw it go over as well. An adjustment of 5 points for last night, and now back to 201. So you're paying the tax for that Game 7 with the total down at 201. But Houston right now a 3-point favorite for Sunday night's Game 7. We'll have plenty of more for you on Game 7 today and tomorrow. But JVT going to join the program coming up in hour number 2. Also last night, and a man who he might be waking up groggy, I think it really, again, would be Vezina Award winner Connor Hellebuyck. What went on last night for Connor Hellebuyck as the fans in St. Louis were chanting, "We want Connor"? There was a stretch in the second period last night as the Blues routed the Winnipeg Jets. 4 goals on 8 shots in a stretch of 5 minutes and 23 seconds. The road has been an absolute nightmare for Connor Hellebuyck. He has been pulled in all 3 road games this postseason. In this series against St. Louis, we get a Game 7. It'll be in Winnipeg. Stanford Steve said it last night on ESPN. First Game 7 in Winnipeg since 1977? That's ridiculous. That is wild. I imagine the atmosphere on Sunday evening will be spectacular there. But Connor Hellebuyck, who very well is going to win the Vezina Trophy for a second straight year, played well for the USA and the Four Nations, really struggling on the road. He's got a save percentage of 75.8%, 16 goals on 66 shots on the road. Fortunately for the Winnipeg Jets, it is at home tomorrow night. So the Winnipeg Jets and the St. Louis Blues, we get a Game 7 as Connor Hellebuyck. I don't know what unfolded last night, but that was not pretty to see what he did. Well, it was pretty for some folks if you liked the St. Louis Blues last night. So we get a Game 7. We have 4 Game 7s over the weekend. I did want to point this out because we saw something happen last night that we have not seen in Major League Baseball history. We had 2 home runs in the 9th inning of one game. The same batter, Riley Green, hit 2 homers last night for the Detroit Tigers in the 9th inning. Anytime I can have an opportunity to tell you something that's never happened in baseball, I will let you know. And that's what happened last night as Riley Green hit 2 homers in the 9th. First player in Major League Baseball history with 2 homers in the 9th inning of one game as the Tigers took care of business against the Los Angeles Angels last night. So there you go. Recap of what unfolded last night. Still having a hard time understanding what is going on for Connor Hellebuyck. Does he bounce back at home tomorrow between the pipes there for the Winnipeg Jets with a Game 7 against the St. Louis Blues? So once again, busy show for you ahead tonight, and including a recap and a preview, I should say, of the Kentucky Derby. And if you're looking for a new way to feel the rush this Kentucky Derby, First Bet is your front row seat to the fastest 2 minutes in sports and so much more. Bet on the Derby and hundreds of other races every day at firstbet.com. That's the number 1, stbet.com. New users can use the promo code VSiN200 and grab a $200 bonus. Get ready. The Derby starts, ladies and gentlemen, at First Bet, and the Derby is coming up later on this afternoon. Tons and tons of coverage for you here on VSiN. Our Kentucky Derby guide is out right now for all VSiN Pro subscribers. And what are we going to do next for you? That's right. We're going to go head down to Churchill Downs. We're going to talk to our guy, Drew Dinsick. Boots on the ground. Might need some rain boots. What's the weather like down there at Churchill Downs? We'll bet it all for you. On the other side, who should we have on our cards tonight as we have the 151st running of the Kentucky Derby? Drew Dinsick up next. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
We keep it rolling here on a glorious Saturday. 2 Game 7s. Andy Lindahl from Denver will join us coming up in less than 15 minutes. How do the Denver faithful take in tonight when you've got 2 Game 7s going on at the same time? But I mentioned this a couple weeks ago. I'm from D.C., and I love living out here in Vegas. I've been out in Vegas here for almost 5 years, and I was having some serious FOMO, though, because Alex Ovechkin's chase for the record was giving me I was a little homesick, right, watching it. And I've never been to the Kentucky Derby, and seeing my guy, Drew Dinsick, with a cowboy hat on down there at Churchill Downs, I'm getting a little FOMO, and I need to get down there. Maybe a year that it's not raining, Drew, so I'm not too upset that I'm missing this year, but I got to figure out a way to hang out with you down there at Churchill Downs one of these years. Boots on the ground today. The rain is coming in. What does that do for this pace? And does that give any particular advantage to the now field of 19 because of a couple scratches?
Yes. So, sports bucket list for any of those of us who consider ourselves betting men. Being here at the Derby is pretty spectacular. they're playing the national anthem, so I'm going to remove my cowboy hat.
Oh, look at that!
And
Thank you.
you can see my terrible hair. It is raining, and it has been quite wet today. And ultimately, the conditions are expected to be very sloppy once we get to post time. Expecting light rain all day. With a couple of cells of heavier rain, and they did get the track sealed. Important to note, they got the track sealed before it started raining. So as of this moment, it's in good condition. But as they go and do the races throughout the undercard, it is going to beat up the surface, and it's going to be an off-track, sloppy track by the time we get to post time for the Kentucky Derby. Now, what does that do to the pace of the race? It was already expected to be a little bit of a fast-paced race. There's a lot of early speed in this class. And when there's a fast pace and there's contention to be on the pace, that often opens up an opportunity for a closer to pick up the pieces coming down the home stretch. And that is, kind of most famously what happened when Rich Strike won here on a similar, track conditions in what was that, 2022. And in general, I think the closers for this race are absolutely world class. Your best closer in this field is Sovereignty. So the number one horse you upgrade when you see the weather like this, and you think that there's potential for a closer to be hit the top of the board. Sovereignty is the biggest upgrade of the choices. Second biggest upgrade for me is Final Gambit. He's interesting because he's in the 3-post, and he is the clear slow inside horse, so he can just kind of break at his leisure and potentially even get a rail ride. There may be some rail bias today, as they tend to kind of get the inside of the track worked a little bit harder, which can sometimes make it a little bit firmer, a little bit better footing, and the speed has a better opportunity to manifest on the inside. So Final Gambit positioned really well to make a run. And then unfortunately, the favorite journalism, who is a healthy, kind of plus 240 in the futures pool. He is a very, very good late pace course. So he is the horse to beat. And I'm having a very tough time figuring out who and why anyone's going to beat him. But if anyone does, it's most likely Sovereignty. And then the bigger price to hit the board is likely Final Gambit. Now, I tell you all this while through gritted teeth, because I was very, very hopeful that my 5-horse I say my 5-horse, I don't own the horse. I was very, very hopeful that American Promise, the 5, was going to run the race of his life today. And I haven't given up hope of that, but he's the kind of horse that's going to be on the pace early. And now that there's potentially more horses trying to get up there, trying to avoid the kickback, potentially, heating up the pace, I'm starting to feel like it's a pretty long shot that he's going to run today. So, it was a fun ride. I'm already die is cast for me. I bet him in all over the place in the fixed odds pool. So, we go to war with the best we've made. But ultimately this feels like it could chalk out with the number 8 horse Journalism, and then Sovereignty, your second choice.
Drew Dinsick down there at the Kentucky Derby, really good insight. He's been doing it all week long. And, Sovereignty was the horse that Brittany Urton, who will be on the NBC coverage, I was listening back to the interview we had with her on Wednesday night, and that was before we knew everything. And she really just kind of kept circling back to Sovereignty. Interesting I mentioned that interview because that took place on Wednesday, and we had not had the scratches of Rodriguez and Grande yet. Beza, I might be pronouncing it wrong, the 21 horse. This is a horse that, people that know horses, like yourself and others, have mentioned if this horse gets in the field, it's going to be interesting. And just look at the odds, right? Down to 12-1. What do you make of the 21 horse, and does he have a shot today?
Yeah, so I'm a market guy. I like to kind of understand what the smartest people in the space are doing. That is usually kind of the shortcut. If you aren't, if you aren't in the weeds handicapping horses every single day, then the Kentucky Derby, you have to use the sharp insights you get from the market for a race like this. And the biggest indicator I can point to is the Oaks Derby Double is a parlay pool where you parlay the winner of the Oaks with the winner of the Derby. And why it's an important pool to look at is it is the sharpest horse players on earth are tipping their hand as to what they think the fair odds are for all of the contenders of the Kentucky Derby. That is not to say what price they're going to go off on Derby Day, because there's all kinds of weird nonsense and public pushing win pools around. Like, this Sandman, the 17, who I think is not necessarily a factor for this race, even though he is a closer. He has an owner who is this influencer with blah, blah, blah million followers on TikTok or whatever. And they're all just going to pile into the win pool for Sandman and just completely wreck his odds. You look at the Oaks Derby double and you get a little bit more of a fair read as what the sharp players think. And the reason I'm bringing all this up in context for Baeza is Baeza was the fourth choice in the Oaks Derby in terms of payoff. Number one, 2.4 to 1 was journalism. Number 2, 5.1 was sovereignty. Number 3 was Sandman, but he was 9.2. That's compared to like expecting him to go off in like the 4 to 1 range. And then number 4 was Baeza, like right behind Sandman at like 9.5. So that kind of tells you that not just like the people who talk about horse racing and who are buzzing about it, but the professionals who are using their insights to put extremely liquid, liquidity into these pools. They really like Baeza. And so for me, he is a must use in your superfecta, particularly if a horse like journalism wins. Last time out, Baeza came in second to journalism at the Santa Anita Derby. That was a little bit of a breakout performance from Baeza because he is a late bloomer. He was a late full. So if he takes a step forward and catches or even passes journalism, I would not at all be shocked to see him ship the Run for the Roses.
Drew Dinsick giving us some great insight, boots on the ground down there as he puts the cowboy hat back on. Dwayne Lucas is his guy. He's riding with Dwayne Lucas. It's funny. We always joke there's nothing worse than hope. It feels like you've already conceded your final your American Promise bets here. But
I haven't. Here, real quick, Dwayne Lucas. He took him out of the Lexington, and when he did that, I was like, "Oh, this is great!" Like he thinks he can win the Derby. He's keeping him fresh. And then you hear an interview a week ago, and he was like, "Yeah, we took him out of the Lexington so he'd be fresh." Not for the Derby, but for the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes. Because he was like, this horse is going all the way. I was like, wow. Oh my goodness. Like, I know he's optimistic, but that's amazing. What confidence. So that's where I am.
All right, Drew, we only got 2 minutes left. You're busy. Let's throw out some numbers. So we've talked the 8 with journalism. Sure. We've talked the 18 with sovereignty. Throw some numbers out at us that you're going to build for today.
Yeah, sure. 818 on the top of your superfecta, no question. I think you got to have Baeza on tier 2. I think you have to have Final Gambit on tier 2, and the bomb that really might hit the super payout, make the super effective payout super interesting, is Tistastic the 14 for me. So 14 is a must use in 3 and 4, and then the other kind of general closing horses in this race, Sandman's got to be on the bottom because he is going to close, although albeit I think he's more your 3rd or 4th place runner. And then, horses like Chunk of Gold, who nobody is considering, he could hit the very bottom. He could hit the bottom of the board. Mohawk could hit the bottom of the board. And I think Render Judgment, just because, they're running this horse here, even though he doesn't have a chance to win, he's going to run to the wire. They're not backing him off to save him for another day. So I think realistically, the way to score a massive payout in the super this year is going to be to hit one of those bombs in the 3 or the 4 hole.
He is Drew Dinsick at Whale_Capper. Boots on the ground there for NBC Sports. Drew, appreciate it, man. Stay dry.
Hey, best of luck, you guys.
There he is, Drew Dinsick. What great insight. Always appreciate it there. Hey, folks, just a reminder, Profit X is offering the best odds all baseball season long. Profit X is a peer-to-peer sports exchange available in 40-plus states. The first of its kind in the U.S. You'll be able to make your sports picks against other groups of fans rather than against the sports books. Exchange guarantees the best odds by average of 10 to 20%. Download Profit X today, use the code VSIN, and earn up to $200 in profit cash over your first month. Denver's going to have 2 Game 7s. We'll talk about them next.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
What a busy sports day it is. Thanks to Drew Dinsick. Great insight there on the Derby, giving us his thoughts there and corroborating with Brittany Urton from VSiN Primetime on Wednesday night with some love for Sovereignty as one of the horses to win it. He says you got to put 8 and 18 atop your boxes this Saturday, Journalism and Sovereignty. And he thought that Sovereignty with the wet track that benefits that horse particularly well. More Kentucky Derby coverage as the show and as the day goes on here at VSiN. Mike Somich is going to have some great insight for all of you later on in the day. But it's not just the run for the Roses, the 151st Kentucky Derby. We've got not one but 2 Game 7s, and both are involving teams from Denver. So let's head to the Mile High City and welcome in Andy Lindahl from the Altitude Sports Radio group up there. He does the afternoon show with Nate Kreckman from 3 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. All right, just put it into perspective where we are heading into this day. Your listeners, is it excitement? Is it nerves? We got the Avs on the road at Dallas. We got Denver at home against the Clippers, essentially playing at the same time. So you got to get the multi-screens ready there in Denver. Andy, what's the feel? What's the vibe right now in the Mile High City?
Nerves, because I'm sure everyone's watched the series. You know, the Clippers and Nuggets couldn't be more evenly matched. They both play the same style of game. They both hit threes about the same way. The 4 and the 5 seed, I guess this is what you would expect. But, look, the Denver Nuggets, I think a lot of people are still scarred by last year's Game 7 against Minnesota, where even though they had the home court advantage, they blew a 20-point lead and just inexplicably in the third quarter couldn't hit a shot, didn't look like they had energy. It was very, very strange. So nobody wants a repeat of that. Now, they did play better in Game 6 against the Clippers this year than they did last year in Minnesota. Their Game 6 against the Timberwolves last year, they just mailed it in, basically. It was brutal. So I think they're in a better headspace there. But MPJ, Michael Porter Jr. is dealing with a bad shoulder injury. You may have seen a couple times in the game the other night where he could barely get his arm out there to try to catch some of the passes being thrown to him. His shot has been kind of in and out as he tries to figure out how to play with a shoulder injury that technically he should, you see that wrap on the picture you just showed right there, if it wasn't the regular season, he wouldn't be playing. He would be out for at least a month trying to get that thing right, and we'll see if there's even surgery in his future when it's all said and done. Nikola Jokic, I think, is a little dinged up, and then we've got to see what we get out of Jamal Murray. Jamal has been very interesting, a story that I think a lot of people have followed since the Olympics. You guys probably remember all the ballyhoo after his poor performance for Team Canada. He's just dealt with a lot of injuries this year. And the Nuggets are a team that are built where the Clippers are really deep. Although it was interesting last game, the Nuggets and Clippers played about the exact number of players, although DeAndre Jordan only played 3 minutes, so I don't know if that really counts. But, the Clippers at the start of the series are going 9-10 deep on their bench, and now they only played 8 last game, and then Chris Dunn kind of got sat, and they used Batum on Jamal Murray. So we'll see what the adjustment for Denver is to that, because Batum was effective defensively. So there's nerves here. I think people feel pretty good about it. Here's the interesting thing, and I'm a Denver native. I've watched the Stars and Avalanche play a whole lot in the playoffs, and the Stars are just the elixir for whatever the Avs are. And unfortunately right now for Jared Bednar, a lot of pressure on this game tonight because he's never beat Pete DeBoer in his run. And it's been wild because DeBoer's been with the San Jose Sharks a few years ago. We had the controversial, I want to say it was 2019, but it was pre-COVID, the controversial offside call with Gabe Landeskog that everybody here thought was not an offside call. They win that Game 7 series against the Sharks. You guys should know very well, DeBoer with Vegas, he takes down Bednar, and a team that I thought the Avs probably should have won their first cup with Grubauer, Philip Grubauer as their goalie, but mainly most of this cast still intact, that core intact anyway. But they couldn't get past Vegas and DeBoer in that 7-game series. And now this could be the second year in a row where DeBoer takes down Jared Bednar in a 7 games. Well, last year it only went 6, but a 7-game series here. Jared Bednar has to get past Pete DeBoer. When you have Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon, most clubs would take one of those guys. You have both of those guys, and you've had them in their prime. They've got to get it done. This is a team I think that can actually go on to push and maybe win the Stanley Cup, whereas the Nuggets, I think most of us feel here, even if they get past this Game 7, they probably won't get past the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Andy Lindahl joining us right now, courtesy of our progressive guest line. He's up there in Denver, radio host for Altitude Sports. You can check him out with Nate Kreckman. Weekday is there on their afternoon drive program, 3 to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. All right, let's stick with Avs here real quickly, because from the betting market, you mentioned Clippers and Nuggets, and we'll circle back there. That's a true coin toss, right? Pick 'em. When you look at this series, just from the odds standpoint, the Avs have clearly been the betting favorite. They go out, they win Game 1 in impressive fashion, 5-1. I think most of us are thinking, all right, this series is a wrap. And then here we see the Stars kind of bounce back. The Game 5 to me was kind of eye-opening. So the victories for Colorado, you look at Game 1, you look at the 4-0 win in Denver, Game 4, and then a couple of empty netters to make it 7-4 against Dallas. What has led to the Avs' 3 victories, and what can they do tonight to get that home for them against the Stars?
The formula is simple, and for anybody listening, if you want to do some of the in-game betting and pop open the app, here's what you need to look for the trends for Colorado. First off, it's real simple. DeBoer knows how to stop the Avs style of play, and what frustrates me, I love the Avalanche. They are a very fun team to watch in the regular season, but they have a little of that Peyton Manning with the Indianapolis Colts syndrome going on, where when teams start playing nasty, ugly defense, and not every little thing is called, and it becomes a playoff style of hockey, everybody sucks in. They take away the east-west passing that the Avs want to do so bad. And so in the 3 wins, it's been real simple. They have shot pucks at the net, and they've crashed the net to get it home. No better case in point than Gabe Landeskog slamming a big shot off the leg pad of Ottinger the other night, and Val Nichushkin, who's been very quiet this season or this series, skates in and finally knocks in a rebound. That's what they have to do. They got 2 whack lucky goals the other night, one off a skate, the other one where Dallas is trying to clear, and the game-winning goal goes off of a player's shoulder and into the net. Not only does it get off his shoulder, it curves over the glove of Ottinger. Just the weirdest hockey goal I'd ever seen that you didn't intend to do. But, it all got started because the Avs shot pucks at the net. When they try to play pretty, when they try to get the perfect goal that can't be stopped, and they're trying to make the Sports Center top 10, that's when they don't win games. But when they dig in and they play gritty, and Lekkonen's involved and Nichushkin's involved, they need Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle, 2 of their big late-season acquisitions, to go and be really gritty in front of the net. That's when the Avs have got a good shot. And all they did, go look at the shot numbers last game. All they did was when they get in the zone, they didn't try to get pretty. It was bombs away at the net, and then they went and drove in rebounds. That's what they have to do. If they're doing that tonight, you can probably get in game and put some money down on the Avs. If they're passing it around and wasting 30, 45 seconds in a power play, then it's probably not going to go their way.
Looking at it, Andy, we'll talk more about this from a betting standpoint, because I do want to get your thoughts on the Nuggets. Does this thing tighten up in the first period? A long thought, especially for Game 7s, is low-scoring first period. What do we expect right out of the chute? Is this going to be kind of a feeling out Game 7 process in your eyes?
Yeah, and here's why. The Avs have to be a little bit careful. Go back to that last game. 2 of the Dallas goals came on breakaways. Dallas just does – Pete DeBoer teams are so great at being patient. Make your mistake. We'll get our guy in the neutral zone and get him free in. And they did that a couple of times, and that got 2 of their 4 goals the other night. The Avs have to be very leery of that. So they probably – and look, the Avs, there's a ton of pressure. Like I said, this is the dragon they have to slay. So I would expect him to be a little bit tight at the beginning, and hopefully it loosens up from a Colorado standpoint.
Andy Lindahl joining us here, courtesy of our progressive guest line. Art, before we let you run, let's circle back to the hoops. We've got Nuggets, Clippers. It is a true coin toss. Point spread right now, 1.5 in favor of the Denver Nuggets at home. Total has come down a little bit because this is a Game 7 sitting at 207. X factor tonight, and who ultimately pulls it out here, Andy, in Denver?
I'm going to go with Denver because they're home, and I do think the crowd's energy will carry the Nuggets, but I'm not very confident in that. Again, you want to do something in-game. You want to bet somebody in-game. See who's turning the ball over. And I know it's such a simple thought, but every team that has lost this series, I believe, has lost the turnover battle. It's been crazy. The Clippers had a game of 20 turnovers. The Nuggets had a game of 20 turnovers. And that's basically been the difference. So we'll see where it is tonight. If Jamal Murray gets hot, you got to like their chances. If the Denver Nuggets starters are hot, you got to like their chances. But if they're clanking shots throughout the first half, this is probably going to be a gritty one that maybe goes in the Clippers' way.
Andy, great stuff. It's going to be a wild night up there in Denver, and we appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me, guys.
There he is, Andy Lindahl. Follow him on Twitter at Andy_LINDAHL. Altitude Sports, you can catch him afternoon drive. He also does some sidelines work for Colorado football. Might have to get him on. Curious the Buffs' outlook this year post Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders. Hey, just a reminder, you know it, the Kentucky Derby is today, and you can get your hands on our Kentucky Derby betting guide. If you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, head on over to vsin.com/subscribe. You can start your VSiN Pro subscription for just $9.99 for your first 30 days. VSIN.com/subscribe.